6 ancient discoveries that seem not to fit into the timeline of history, not because they prove some fantasy and not because archaeology has failed, but because all of them leave a central question open. This script follows a verifiable criterion: 6 ancient findings that, candid according to named institutions, studies, or archaeological projects, still maintain real debate about function, chronology, construction method, or historical impact. And it is exactly there that the mystery begins. Because when the evidence is solid, but the explanation remains incomplete, the past becomes more unsettling than any legend. Let us start with Göbekli Tepe in southeastern Turkey. According to the German Archaeological Institute and the records of historical research of the site, the hill was recognized as an archaeological site in 1963 during a survey by the universities of Istanbul and Chicago in the Urfa region. But, according to archaeologist Klaus Schmidt, it was only in 1994 that the true importance of the place was realized. In 1995, excavations began in cooperation with the Şanlıurfa Museum and the Istanbul arm of the German Archaeological Institute. And what emerged there was bewildering: monumental enclosures, T-shaped pillars, animal reliefs, and a symbolic scale that, according to the Institute itself, changed the existing image of the complexity of the last groups of hunter-gatherers in southwestern Asia. The problem is that Göbekli Tepe seems too large, too planned, and too symbolically sophisticated to fit comfortably with the old idea that stable villages came first, then consolidated agriculture, and only then monumental architecture. According to UNESCO, the site is linked to the emergence of the world's earliest agricultural communities. But it is precisely this proximity to the origin of sedentary life that makes everything stranger. Because instead of seeming the final result of a society already fully organized, Göbekli Tepe seems to announce that complex organization may have come earlier than we imagined. There is no absolute consensus about the exact role of these enclosures, and it is here that the mystery deepens. Perhaps religion helped bring communities together even before what we call formal civilization. If that is true, the order of history may be less stable than it seems. Now advance almost 10,000 years and reach the Aegean Sea. According to the records of the Antikythera mechanism, the fragments were recovered in 1901 from a Roman shipwreck near the island of Antikythera in Greece. For decades, the object seemed merely a broken piece of corroded bronze. But, according to the study led by Mike Edmonds at Cardiff University and published in the journal Nature in 2006, surface imaging and high-resolution X-ray tomography allowed the reconstruction of its internal logic. The result was surprising. According to that study, the mechanism calculated and displayed astronomical information, predicted lunar and solar eclipses, and performed mechanical operations of unexpected sophistication for the end of the 2nd century before Christ. The most disturbing point is not just the ingenuity. According to the same research, it is technically more complex than any known device for at least 1,000 years after it. And that changes the tone of the question. The doubt is no longer whether the ancient world knew how to observe the sky. The doubt is why a machine with this level of precision seems so lonely in technological history. Where are its direct predecessors? Where are its immediate successors? According to some researchers, the mechanism may be only the accidental survivor of a broader technical tradition. But what is known so far is that almost nothing similar survived in the material record. And when an artifact appears far ahead of what the timeline seems to allow, the sensation is inevitable. Perhaps the loss of knowledge was greater than the discovery itself. The third case is in China, in Guanghan, province of Sichuan. According to the Sichuan Provincial Institute of Cultural Relics and Archaeology and the journal Antiquity, in 1986, 2 sacrificial pits, called Pits 1 and 2, revealed more than 900 artifacts of bronze, gold, jade, and ivory in Sanxingdui. Decades later, according to the same institute, the reopening of excavations in 2020 after the protection project initiated in 2019, led to the discovery of 6 more pits alongside the first ones. And it was there that Sanxingdui again challenged the oversimplified versions of ancient Chinese history: masks with protruding eyes, bronze heads, monumental figures, and a visual style that does not fit easily with the most well-known image of ancient Chinese bronze. According to the journal Antiquity, the site provides important evidence for a multi-centered development of metallurgy, urbanism, and culture in China of the 2nd millennium before Christ. This means that history is not being destroyed, but expanded. And sometimes expanding is even more uncomfortable because it forces the abandonment of overly linear narratives. Sanxingdui does not prove an impossible civilization. What it proves, according to the institute responsible, is that a highly sophisticated regional tradition flourished with its own characteristics, and perhaps for too long it was read as peripheral. The real mystery is not alien nor supernatural. The real mystery is how a culture capable of producing such singular objects still remained for so long outside the center of global narrative. The 4th case is in the Peruvian desert, approximately 400 kilometers south of Lima. According to UNESCO, the lines and geoglyphs of Nazca and Palpa form one of the most impressive archaeological sites in the world, with continuous activity for nearly 2,000 years between approximately 500 before Christ and 500 after Christ, highlighting phases linked to the Paracas and Nazca cultures. And here, there is an important correction. According to UNESCO, the authenticity of these figures is indisputable. There is no mystery about their existence, nor about their human origin. The debate is in another part. Since 1941, according to UNESCO, researcher Maria Reicha and the Ministry of Culture of Peru have conducted investigations, conservation, and permanent protection in the Nazca and Palpa region. What continues surrounded by debates is the exact function of this gigantic system. According to UNESCO, the site can be understood as a symbolic, ritual, and social landscape linked to a long-lasting magical religious tradition. But that still does not close all questions. Because some figures represent animals, plants, and fantastic forms. Others are straight lines of kilometers in length. Others appear to be tracks or areas prepared for large human displacements. And the problem is that a single explanation seems too small for such a vast system. According to some researchers, part of the lines may have served processions, rituals, and symbolic organization of the territory. But there is no complete consensus on how each category of drawing fit into the daily religious and political life of these societies. In Nazca, the mystery is not in an isolated object. It is in the scale. It is in the repetition. It is in the fact that the entire desert seems to have been transformed into language. The 5th case takes us to Laos, to the plain of jars, in the province of Shenquang. According to UNESCO, it is a megalithic landscape with more than 2,100 jars of stone throughout the region, of which 1,325 are included in the components protected as World Heritage since 2019. According to UNESCO, the sites date between 500 before Christ and 500 after Christ, possibly reaching up to 800 after Christ, and are associated with Iron Age funeral practices. But this definition resolves only part of the enigma. According to the University of Melbourne, the Australian National University, and the Lao Department of Heritage, research teams working there since 2016 continue to try to better understand who produced these jars, how they were distributed, and what exactly they meant within that culture. In 2019, according to the University of Melbourne, researchers linked to these institutions identified 15 sites unknown with more than 100 additional jars. In 2021, according to the same group, new analyses indicated that the jars were probably placed in their final locations from extraction areas even older. What does that raise? First, logistic scale. Some of these pieces weigh tons and appear scattered across hills and spurs of the landscape. Second, cultural identity. According to UNESCO, the jars are the most visible evidence of a civilization about which little is still known. And that is what makes the place so disturbing. The stones are there. The secondary burials and funeral markers are also. But the complete face of the society that organized this world has still not emerged with clarity. It is like finding the signature of a culture without fully knowing the voice that wrote it. The sixth case is not a large monument fixed in the ground. It is a collection of small objects scattered across a vast geography of silence. According to the Norton Disney History and Archaeology Group and the report from Smithsonian Magazine published in 2024, approximately 130 Roman dodecaedra have already been found in the provinces of the northwest of the ancient Roman Empire, and 33 of them appeared in ancient Roman Britain. A new specimen, practically intact, was found in 2023 in the village of Norton Disney in Lincolnshire, in England. They are hollow, have 12 pentagonal faces, circular openings of different sizes, and small buttons at each vertex. And the most impressive thing is that, despite existing for centuries in archaeological debate, their function remains unknown. According to Smithsonian Magazine, there is no secure visual or textual reference to these objects in known Roman records. According to the Norton Disney Group itself, the piece was produced with great skill and shows no evident signs of wear that would confirm simple everyday use. According to researchers from the Gallo-Roman Museum, one of the hypotheses suggests ritual or magical use, but that interpretation is still debated. Other theories speak of a measuring instrument, calendar, ornamental piece, or ceremonial object. The problem is that no explanation has won convincingly. And this may be the purest type of archaeological mystery. It is not a structure that lost parts. It is not a text that arrived fragmented. It is a repeated object, manufactured in different places, preserved in reasonable quantity, and yet without consensual function. Sometimes the past does not fall silent because it was erased. Sometimes it falls silent because even in surviving, it remained indecipherable. And when these 6 discoveries are placed side by side, the sensation that remains is not that official history is wrong, but that it is still far from being complete. According to the German Archaeological Institute, Göbekli Tepe forced a rethinking of the complexity of the first monumental builders. According to Cardiff University, the Antikythera mechanism showed a level of astronomical engineering that seemed displaced in time. According to the Sichuan Provincial Institute of Cultural Relics and Archaeology, Sanxingdui reinforced the idea that great civilizations can flourish outside the centers that the narrative usually privileges. According to UNESCO, Nazca continues to be a symbolic landscape of such vast proportions that it still resists a single interpretation. According to UNESCO and the University of Melbourne, the Plain of Jars preserves the vestiges of an important culture whose identity is still partial. And according to the Norton Disney History and Archaeology Group and researchers linked to the Gallo-Roman Museum, Roman dodecaedra continue to challenge any definitive answer. Perhaps the true shock is not in the discoveries themselves. Perhaps it is in what they reveal about us. We like to imagine the past as a straight road with a beginning, middle, and end, as if each stage prepared the next in a predictable way. But the archaeological record is rarely so obedient. It appears in blocks, in ruins, in broken mechanisms, in scratched deserts, in nameless jars, in bronzes without parallel, in pillars raised before it seemed possible. And, according to all that is known so far, the human past is not only ancient, it is stranger, more creative, more fragmented, and, in some points, more sophisticated than our timeline was ready to admit. That is why these discoveries remain so powerful. Not because they destroy science, but because they force science to keep asking. And sometimes, the right question is much more disturbing than any answer.